Well, here I am attempting to do a landscape of this old meadow with oak trees and the remains of a stubble field or a cornfield. It's all been harvested, but my challenge today was to paint this, but it was blowing a hoolie. In fact, I've muted the soundtrack. You could hear my voice. I had a wind from my mic, but you still had the annoying roar of the wind. So I decided I'll cut that in the first half of this video. It does die down towards the end. But anyway, here I am just laying in my shape and my horizon, and just a mixture there of umber and ultramarine to help me map out my dark shape. But they've got some magnificent oak trees actually, so I'm just trying to do that. But what was a nice feature of this scene for me was obviously these majestic oaks, but you will see just in my picture there, in the distance, there are small oak trees. So there's quite a line of trees in the distance, and it's the juxtaposition of those big dark shapes with these little trees that I like, and I had to try and represent that, of course. There's a big oak tree on this side as well. So again, I'm just trying to shape it, and I can refine this. This was my plan, to refine it as I went along, or back in the studio, which I think I will do anyway. But it was very, very demanding painting today with this storm. I was having trouble holding on to my easel. I had my rucksack tied to the bottom of the tripod there, just to try and hold it steady. And of course I have my camera on a tripod as well, so I had my left hand on that most of the time, trying to hold that on. So these are the challenges of doing plein air, of course. So when I look back on this, for me it's quite a memory of that occasion and that day. So here I am trying to do the this sort of line of hedge. There are 2 or 3 hedges here, and tire tracks from where the tractors have come in. So I'm just trying to lay that in, and of course right in front of me I have a bigger hedge as well. You can just see it behind my right hand there, so I will put some of that in as well. So I'm just trying to roughly get some idea of my design. This is all about establishing the boundary, really. A bit more umber now, and I've got some green there, sap green I have, olive green as well. So I've made a little mixture there. Just going to block it in very crudely. I'm painting on a 3.6 meter plywood board that I've bought from the local DIY store, and cut it and primed it with simple wood primer, 2 coats both sides, and also the edges, because you want to do that to prevent water getting to it and warping it over time. So that's the objective in that. I've started to paint a lot more on board. You can cut them to any size you want, of course. You can can have nice landscape, or bigger ones, 20 by 30 or whatever you're up to. This is a 10 by 12, simply because it slots in my Pochard box to hold it there. And of course, when it's a wet panel as well, I can just slot it in there and take it away without getting paint all over my car. I should get a wet paint carrier ready, but apparently you can make those easy enough from an old box and put some doweling in it just to give you some separation, and you can make it as many slots as you like, really, just limited by your box size. But anyway, I've just got the 2 on here. And on the base here I've got a big hedge. I'm trying to map that in as well. Also trying to pick up some of those distant trees on that line as well. Is I have to cut into these trees later with my sky to try and represent the shape a little bit. They've got great shape, of course, oak, but got to cut in with a bit of sky just so they don't look like lollipops. Here we are. I've got there's several hedges in this vista which help to show you the distance. I went for a walk through these fields before I painted this, and oh, it was magnificent. It was so hot. It's over 30 degrees, which is hot for the UK, not normally that hot. It made me reflect on ancient times of when people ploughed those fields with horse and plough, what sort of lives did they have. That's the nice thing about going out in plein air. It does connect you with nature in a way that photography doesn't, strangely enough. You go and you take the picture and you come home, but nothing will connect you more to the occasion, to that particular day, than if you were to sit and sketch or paint. I think when you paint or sketch, you pay a lot more attention. You actually look at the things. You learn to open your eyes more. So I've noticed that when I've had periods when I haven't been painting, take up painting again and get more active, and suddenly I'm observing everything: the cloud formation, the skies, the state of the crops, what's growing, and the different shades. So whether you take up painting or not, you should start to view it, perhaps, and say to yourself, what is that colour there? Yeah, nearly lost the tripod there. Trying to blow over on me. Actually, where I'm standing is the remains of an old orchard. I think that's a plum tree. You can just see to the left of the pochard box. There's all plums and fallen on the ground. In fact, I was standing on so many fallen plums. It looked like a bloodbath when I'd finished there. It was a pink. The grass had gone pink because of all the squash plums. But I did have a few. Delicious Victoria plum they were. Beautifully ripe. This is thin paint I'm just putting in there. I'm using poppy seed oil as my my medium. I'm using Winsor & Newton water mixable, so I could have used some water, I guess, to do that, but I've just got a thin mixture there to kill off that white. It's helped me judge the tonal values a bit better, and being thin, of course, allows you to put thicker paint over. It's easier to paint over a thin layer than over a thick. And of course we go by the guidance. It's fat over lean is the term that we use. So you put lean thin paint on and then go back with a fatter, a thicker mixture. And this bit is just the remains of a cornfield which has been harvested. A bit of stubble and old stuff there. So I've got to try and get a lighter colour. So I'm using a bit of, well, I came without my yellow ochre. That's a silly thing to do. I didn't check it properly, but I've got cadmium yellow and lemon yellow and raw sienna, so I can approximate something. Clearly that's not a far off from what I would have chosen anyway. I had a wind muff on my camera. As I said, you could hear my narration, but I think the wind howling would have become a bit tedious. Down the road a little bit on this video, I think I will stop the voiceover, and because I think the wind did drop a little bit. Still hear some of it, but you'll catch the moment what it is. If you hear a little bit of noise, a little bit of wind, set the scene as it were. Or if you find it troublesome, of course, just turn your amplifier down, your speaker, and just watch the painting. I'm working now on these hedges. As I say, there's a bit of a sunken track there Well, I'm trying to do two hedges, a sunken sort of lane or track. So I'm going to do that, trying to give you some sense of the lay of the land. And of course I'm a little bit raised up, it's rather sunken, so it's how to deal with that perspective to try and convey some sense of depth. That's what I'm trying to do there. Trying to get something of the nearer hedge now. Just using a mixture of the greens and browns I've got. Try and represent it. Yes, the easel's rocking and rolling a bit in the wind there. It's a bit tricky. Got some umber there, some green. This is quite dark in the heart of the under the trees. They don't get so much light, so you've got to make sure you've got some darks there. You need the dark to set against your light, otherwise you don't really get the contrasts. It's the contrast that makes it work, I think, in a lot of paintings. That's why shadows are quite good to put in a painting if you can. And also, if you're painting from a photograph, it's a good idea to choose a good photograph, and that's one that's got some contrast and obviously good composition, but nice shadows, lights and darks. That will help you in a painting, I think. Still trying to make sure I've got that far hedge, that far hedgerow under those trees there, and also those little trees that you see. Well, they're just oak trees in the distance actually, but they've got to be the right size. This is a near hedge here. That's what I'm working on now. So I think I start to do that now. Here we are, back to this hedge that's right in front of me here. Now I seem to be moving around the painting, which is apparently a good thing. You shouldn't stare too long at one part, otherwise you lose the overall feel of it. But if you've got particular paint on your brush which you can use somewhere else, it makes good sense to do that. I think I'm lightening up now. I'll put a little bit of light on the top of this hedge here, this sunken thing, and that hedge in the distance. A little bit more light there on that tree there. Oh, I think there was some tyre tracks there, old tractor tracks. Farmers driven up there, obviously. That's what I'm putting in there, yes. I can see now. Just scored the earth there with his big trailers and tyres. Just putting a few textural marks in the stubbled field here, trying to put something there, some texture. I think I had some Naples yellow as well, which is a great colour. I think I might have put a bit in the mix there. Sort of very pale yellow. That helps show a little bit of sunlight catching on that cornfield in the distance there. And there's some light grasses as well, just on the field margin there. So I'll just sort of put a few marks in there. It's good to have a little bit of light set against something dark. Can you see it's just a little bit of light in front of that dark hedge. Now I'm come to the foreground with, I think I've got to do that hedge more now. It's an evolving picture really. You add a little bit and you think no, that's not working, so it's push and pull really. Trying to show some of the grasses there. It's a good idea to have more saturated colours in the foreground, nice darks and more rich colours in the foreground. That helps. And your brightest lights, often the foreground, they help. You want to have something interesting in every element of your painting. Trying to put some twigs and grass in now, trying to give some form to that hedge which is right in front of me just as I stand there. Yes, now I'm putting in some of the sky colour. I think I use cerulean here and a little bit of ultramarine in places. This is an opportunity to model your trees as well and cut into them so you can create some sky holes, also where you can see the sky through, help shape them a bit better. So I'm using titanium white here and a little bit of cerulean. I think the wind has dropped a little bit, so I might give you the raw sound now. I'll let it go on a little bit. Yes, a little bit of darker colour there, but I've got a little bit of yellow into the my mix as well to give a little bit of warmth. As I said, it was a very hot day. 31, I think it was, 30, 31, which is extremely hot for UK. Not for you folks who live in Arizona though. I'm sure you have it hotter than that. So let's see if we can stand that wind noise. Let's see. Right, so I don't seem to have the sound now. I seem to have killed off the ambient sound. So we'll carry on with the voiceover. We're coming to the end now. There's a little bit of ultramarine and cerulean there. Give us a little bit more colour.